Tonight,
the way they treated me.
After spending over a year in hospital because of COVID-19, a La Loche man finally returns home. A former Saskatoon doctor is now facing more murder charges after the deaths of patients under his care in Ontario.
1, 2, 3.
And the countdown begins for back to school, and new students are getting some firsts out of the way early.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Wednesday, August 17th. CBC Saskatchewan News starts now. Hello, and thank you for joining us. A Saskatchewan man is finally home after spending more than a year in hospital recovering from COVID-19. 67-year-old Ken Roth contracted the virus in July of 2021. He spent 376 days in the hospital, and this week he was welcomed home in the northern community of La Loche. Bonnie Allen has more.
Oh, after over a year, Ken Roth is finally home.
It was after midnight when friends and neighbors lined the streets to welcome Ken Roth home.
They were all honking their horns and hollering, and I was really surprised and thankful. Very thankful. They lifted my spirit up, and I have a reason to keep going. I couldn't do this a couple months ago.
The retired fire chief is still weak, but relieved to be back in his northern community of La Loche after 376 days in hospital. He contracted COVID-19 in July 2021 while on vacation in Alberta. He spent weeks in a coma and nearly died. Roth was first hospitalized in Calgary, then transferred to Saskatoon, and then shipped to Ontario when Saskatchewan's ICUs became overwhelmed in October. And finally, back to Saskatoon.
Sometimes I want to just actually die. I was so fatigued and tired and laying in bed I couldn't even move.
His recovery was complicated by bouts of pneumonia and infections. In May, Roth began rehab so he could build up enough strength to walk. Meanwhile, his friends built him a wheelchair ramp outside his house.
Today I'm off oxygen. Yes, I'm really doing a lot better. I walk about 15 steps and then I got to stop because I can't breathe for a while. I got to catch my air.
Roth appreciates all the healthcare workers and his family. His wife Lorraine and daughter Kendra stayed by his side in the hospital. Kendra took a home care course so she can nurse her father in his house, and Lorraine helps her husband with almost everything.
I told my wife that. I said, I'm putting you through hell, and it's just really hard on me. I said, she's got to pretty well look after me like a new child.
The grandfather is happy to be back in his own bed, eating his wife's cooking and cuddling with his grandchildren. He wants to get stronger so he can get back on his fishing boat. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Meadow Lake.
A doctor who once worked at St. Paul's Hospital in Saskatoon is now facing more murder charges in Ontario. Dr. Brian Nadler was already charged in connection with the death of an elderly patient in Hawkesbury. Now he's facing 3 additional counts of first-degree murder. Matthew Kupfer has the story.
Dr. Brian Nadler was originally charged with murder in March of 2021. At the time, Ontario Provincial Police said they were investigating possible connections to other deaths at the Hawkesbury and District General Hospital. The hospital is about an hour east of Ottawa and receives patients from both sides of the provincial border. The latest alleged victims are 3 women, 79-year-old Lorraine Lalande, 80-year-old Claire Brière, and 93-year-old Judith Langulescu. A statement from the Hawkesbury Hospital confirms the patients were under Nadler's care. The hospital says it's cooperating with police, and its immediate concern is providing appropriate care and support to the families of deceased patients. In April of last year, CBC News confirmed the investigation into Nadler was related to the death of COVID-19 patients. Police say Nadler was arrested at his home today, 16 months after the investigation began.
Any investigation like this can be very difficult. We have to work through a lot of details and make sure that we're thorough in collecting all information, so it can be very difficult.
In a statement, Nadler's lawyers say all 4 patients died of COVID-19, with Nadler providing, quote, excellent palliative care. His lawyers also said in an email he was released on the same bail conditions from the original charge, which include a ban on practicing medicine, as well as from communicating with hospital staff, patients, or relatives treated at the Hawkesbury and District General Hospital. The Ontario Provincial Police say the investigation is ongoing. Matthew Kupfer, CBC News, Ottawa.
A new parking lot in downtown Regina is the source of some controversy at City Hall, partly because it's not supposed to be a parking lot yet. This dirt lot on Scarth Street is at the center of it all. Regina City Council has yet to pass a bylaw amendment that would allow for the construction of the parking lot. But the houses at that location have already been torn down and cars are already parking there. Councillors were not happy about that news today.
It's clear that we can't recover from this, but it's also clear that the democratic will of council has been short-circuited by this process.
Councillors were so frustrated with the process that they didn't vote to amend the bylaw today. They'll likely reconsider the issue next month. In the meantime, city administration has promised to look into the use of the site. The fallout continues from a Saskatoon Christian school connected to widespread abuse allegations. On Monday, Grace Christian School learned its building lease was being terminated. The school was renting space inside Forest Grove Community Church, but that lease will be terminated effective September 1st. It's now unclear where the current students will attend classes this fall. That decision came after the province announced it's stepping in to administer the school due to the abuse allegations. The province says it's monitoring the situation closely, adding that every independent school needs a building that meets codes to avoid suspension. In the event of the school's closure, the province will work with parents to find alternative schools before classes begin. Grace Christian School has not responded to requests for comment. As we hit mid-August, it means that in just a couple of weeks, students will be heading back to the classroom. And for some students and parents, there can be some nerves over all of the firsts involved. So today, some had the opportunity to get some experience.
Come on in, you guys. Single file.
The Regina Catholic and Public Schools teamed up for the return of the First Ride program. This gives new students, parents, and caregivers a chance to ride the bus for the first time before the first day of school. The program helps kindergarten students get ready for something new and gives parents peace of mind.
We are taking our son Lincoln to bus orientation. He's going to kindergarten this fall, so it's his first time kind of experiencing that and kind of going off on his own. So we wanted an opportunity to kind of walk it through and give him a chance to check it out before he jumps into it in the fall.
Along with learning the ins and outs of taking the bus to school, kids also learn some bike safety, how to safely walk to school, and what a safety patrol is. What many are calling the CFL's most outstanding player halfway through 2022 is making his return to Mosaic Stadium on Friday night. The league's top passer, Nathan Rourke, looks to strengthen the Lions' hold on second in the CFL West. But the Riders' most pressing need is to keep their own star quarterback off his back. Protecting Cody Fajardo has been a problem this season. He's been sacked 30 times this year, the most of any quarterback in the CFL. Now, this is just 2 less than in the last full season in 2019. Injuries and a constant rotation of the starting offensive line have all contributed to their woes. But the O-line coach is quick to defend the unit. He says protection is a 12-person thing.
Offensive lineman has to be perfect for 65 snaps. There's 65 snaps, right? Because if an offensive lineman has one play that's off, it's catastrophic, right? And everybody sees that. If any other position, if a guy makes a mistake or this and that, it goes unnoticed, right? They've taken a lot of criticism that they're not really responsible for, right? But they're tough enough and they're strong enough and they're back strong enough to understand what the nature of the position is. It's all 12 guys just got to be on the same page consistently, right? But and everything. But we want to make sure that we're providing a pocket a truck couldn't run through all the time, right? But that's not realistic. I don't live in a fantasy world. We're not perfect as individuals, right? Nobody in the world's perfect, right?
Friday's game at Mosaic Stadium kicks off an extremely tough 4-game stretch for the Riders. In that time, they will face the Lions twice and the Bombers twice. And we're looking live at Regina's Wascana Lake. A little bit cloudy most of the day, but the sun, you know what, starting to peek out just a little bit. Our weather specialist Ethan Williams is checking things out around the lake and will let us know when the heat will break. Stick around. Welcome back. Much of China is baking under a record-breaking heat wave. Large swaths of the country have been sweltering in 40-degree temperatures for more than 2 months. China's National Weather Office has issued a red alert for high temperatures. The hot, dry conditions are threatening crops and livestock and have forced industries to shut down. Local authorities have imposed power conservation measures to make sure there's enough electricity to supply homes. So-called cloud seeding operations are being implemented in an effort to encourage rainfall to replenish water supplies. Hot, dry weather continues to feed wildfires in Spain. In the eastern Valencia region, crews are battling 2 fires that appear to be converging on each other. Out-of-control flames pushed firefighters off the front lines and forced the evacuation of nearby communities. It's estimated more than 3,000 people have been forced from their homes. Local firefighters are being assisted by military personnel. The fires have burned about 23,000 hectares so far. Nearly 270,000 hectares have been burned by wildfires this year, 4 times Spain's annual average. After a summer of drought, torrential rains soaked parts of France today. Several metro stations in Paris were flooded with water. The equivalent of 1 month's rain fell in just an hour. The French Weather Service says the River Seine rose by 35 centimeters.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac, making back to busy easy.
Not quite the wild weather we just had there. So on the mighty shores of Wascana Lake, we head to weather specialist Ethan Williams. Ethan?
Yes, that's right, Dan. We are reporting from the Trafalgar Outlook here in Wascana Park, and a little bit of a cloudy evening, but a warm evening here in Regina. And while the heat has built in a little bit to the south, it is also building into the north of the province as well, where we do have heat warnings in effect now for the La Loche and the Isle-Across Buffalo Narrows area, and we are looking at 30-degree temperatures there over the next couple of days. Those should subside as we head into the weekend. Also looking at some overnight lows, getting not too far below 20 degrees there, but you wouldn't know it right now because temperatures are actually a little cooler than they were yesterday, and I use that term cooler pretty lightly because we are still looking at some very warm conditions, especially in the south part of the province. But where that rain has moved through this afternoon and where we have cloud cover, temperatures really only into the low to mid 20s at this point, but they are going to begin to warm up as we head into tomorrow. That ridge of high pressure starts making its way over to us. The temperatures maybe not quite as intense as we were looking at a couple of days ago, but the weather will still be quite hot. Those showers that we saw earlier this afternoon in southern Saskatchewan starting to move out now. We are seeing some pop-up showers in southern and central Saskatchewan, a couple of cells along the southern portion of the border now moving into the states at this point. Tonight, we are expecting showers and thunderstorms through the province, through the evening and through the overnight hours as well. Those could continue into early tomorrow morning, but by tomorrow afternoon, we're really only looking for showers and storms along the eastern portion of the province. And really at that, those storms should likely be non-severe in nature, but high pressure begins to build in as we head through Friday. And we are looking at pretty much no precipitation on Friday. Here's a look now at the thunderstorm risk for tomorrow, and really scattered thunderstorms at most. Really, none of them going to be severe. I think most of the thunderstorm threats should be in Manitoba. And again, it's really just along that eastern side of the province. Gusty conditions in the southwest today. Current wind speeds still up there in the southwest. And as we head through the night tonight and through the day tomorrow, those will migrate eastward. Southeastern Saskatchewan looking at some gusty conditions, maybe even Regina seeing some gusts close to 40 kilometers an hour. Heading into Friday, though, that high pressure builds in and those wind gusts should start to diminish. Our next 7 days in Regina are sunny. That heat will take a little while to get to us, at least that 30-degree heat, not until the end of the weekend. We are looking at humidex values picking up into the mid-30s and maybe, just maybe, some showers heading into next week. Saskatoon, that heat will hit you a little earlier. We are looking at 30-degree temperatures heading into tomorrow. Some very sunny conditions, humidex values also picking up, not quite as showery for you as well. Those very warm overnight lows. So a very warm next few days ahead, Dan, and we are looking at some nice conditions tonight for people who want to come down here to Wascana Park.
Awesome. Thanks, Ethan.
Dan, if the team wants inspiration, how about Rocky Traynor, who's had 3 open heart surgeries before the age of 5?
Rocky Traynor of Saskatoon threw out the first pitch at last night's Toronto Blue Jays game and pumped up the crowd in the process. The 7-year-old has had multiple heart surgeries, and now that he's doing better, got the chance of a lifetime to throw out the first pitch. Being center stage didn't affect Rocky at all as he threw a dart to infielder Kevin Biggio. We'll be back after the break. It's been a year since the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan. Some Afghan Canadians who assisted the Canadian military in the past say their family is now being hunted by the Taliban government. They're angry that Ottawa hasn't helped them and have filed human rights complaints. Pratush Dayal has the latest.
Ahmed Mulgari served with the Canadian military in Kandahar 15 years ago as a language and culture advisor. He says he assisted Canadian forces in dangerous missions, putting many Taliban fighters behind bars. Now he says they are all free, hunting the family he left behind when he returned to Canada. Mulgari says the Taliban has visited his in-laws several times looking for him.
And then they ask you to choose between the interest of Canada and the life of your mother-in-law. Please tell me, which one would you choose? Please don't put us in this position.
Mulgari is one of the 45 language and cultural advisors who were recruited by Canada's Department of National Defence during the war in Afghanistan. He says others have had family members killed.
They have chopped his brother's head just for the fact because he was working for Canada, the Canadian forces.
Like many others, Mulgari has requested the Federal Immigration Department to rescue his family members out of Afghanistan, but nothing has happened. Along with 3 other advisors, he has now lodged a complaint against the department with the Canadian Human Rights Commission, alleging discrimination.
If you are from Ukraine, you're white-skinned, you're Christian, this country's doors are open to you. But if you're from Afghanistan and most likely brown-skinned and Muslim, well, boom, the doors are slammed shut.
The federal government was supposed to meet on Tuesday after it twice refused mandatory mediation required by the Human Rights Commission. But they cancelled at the last moment, and they are now scheduled to meet Thursday. But the advisor's legal counsel doesn't expect a settlement. The Federal Immigration Department declined to comment.
Using differential treatment for people in Afghanistan than that of Ukraine. Even though both are under siege, even though both are in grave risk, why is that? Is it the color of their skin? Is that the prevailing reason?
I also spoke with 3 other advisors. One advisor says his 85-year-old father died in Taliban's custody and that his 16-year-old nephew was beaten continuously for 6 hours. Another advisor's mother died waiting to come to Canada. They all say Canada and the Federal Immigration Department are responsible. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Newly released data from last year's census is giving us a look at how Canadians talk to one another. Statistics Canada says new immigrants are increasing the diversity of languages being spoken here. The new census data shows that a record-breaking 1 in 4 people in Canada now have a first language other than English or French. But the 2 official languages are still, by far, the most commonly spoken in Canada, with 90% of Canadians speaking at least one of them. About 12% of the population speaks a language other than English or French at home, the most common being Mandarin and Punjabi. The data also suggests that the overall number of people who speak an Indigenous language has dropped, but the figure more than doubled among children aged 8 or younger. From Wascana Lake, here's Ethan back with another look at weather.
And it looks like it is going to be a pretty nice morning tomorrow in Regina. Dan will be at 17 degrees in Regina under some sunny skies. We are looking at those northwest wind gusts up to about 25 kilometers an hour. Heading into the noon hour again, winds will pick up close to 40 kilometers an hour, but quite nice at 25 degrees. Those sunny conditions will be sticking around almost at our daytime high of 27. In Saskatoon, a very similar forecast at 8 a.m., 18 degrees. Those winds a little lighter out of the northwest. And then we get to the afternoon at the noon hour again, 27 on our way to a high of 30. Winds won't quite be as breezy as they are in Regina and the south part of the province. And if you are out this evening, there is a chance that you could see some beautiful aurora. There is a geomagnetic storm that is happening on the sun, and that is producing some pretty strong KP indexes. In Saskatchewan, that'll be around a 7 out of 10. Hasn't been that high in a little while. Just partly cloudy conditions tonight. There is the chance we could see some showers and storms, but outside of that, and the fact that the moon won't be too bright, you should be able to see that. And Dan, you will have to be either a night owl or an early bird, because the best chance to see that will be between midnight and 6 a.m.
I am neither, so I will miss it. Awesome. Thanks, Ethan. Inflation has taken a big bite out of most family budgets, and a lot of people are looking for ways to economize, especially on what can be luxury items. Case in point, a mom in Nova Scotia who set sail for savings when she wanted a backyard pool for her young daughter. CBC's Danielle Edwards navigates this story for us.
When you think of a boat, you usually think of it being on the water, but Olivia Kendall put a twist on it. The centerpiece of her backyard is the unusual pool she's recently finished building in the cockpit of an old motorboat.
I had gotten a quote for a stock tank pool, and it was just a little bit out of my budget range, quite a bit out of my budget range, actually.
Though she originally wanted to use a round galvanized steel tank in her backyard, she was discouraged by the high prices. It was only after coming across a chance listing that she started to look at other options.
I started thinking about what other type of container could hold water for a pool. And so I started looking around Facebook Marketplace, and something immediately popped up, and it was this boat listed for $300. And I figured if water can stay out of a boat, maybe it could be trapped in a boat.
The boat is an old Mercury model runabout made by the Chestnut Canoe Company, which was once based in Fredericton. Once she got the boat, the next step was getting it leveled. Then more pool equipment, also from Facebook Marketplace, including a pool pump, sand filter, a saltwater chlorinator, and of course, a place to put cold drinks for herself and her 3-year-old daughter Adele. Kendall says Adele and other kids in the neighborhood are big fans of the project.
And I heard it was going to be a really hot summer, and it was really important to get something going. She goes in it almost every day. If it's not raining, and if we have time, she's in there for sure. I've been able to get in a couple times myself as well.
After about a month of work, Kendall is looking forward to spending more time in the boat with her daughter for the rest of the summer.
Kendall says now that she's done the pool, she's going to spruce up the area a bit. That's going to include painting, lights, and adding some landscaping to the hull of the boat. Danielle Edwards, CBC News, Dartmouth.
That's awesome. And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask or /Saskatoon. Or, of course, check out our YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news at 11. Good night, everybody.